Well, here we are, the three amigos,
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Kathy.
the
How you guys
canine
doing?
crew.
You look in good shape, Kathy, today. You're
Oh,
got your best for the past 2 weeks.
oh yeah. Well, I've been, as you guys know, I've been sick.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably should tell everybody I had the coronavirus, so that's why I've been in and out and everything else. So I didn't want, yeah, but I'm practicing really good social distancing, and you know how I'm doing that because I'm not going anywhere.
Anywhere. Excelente. Excelente.
Yeah, but I'm doing better now. Anyway, today, speaking of the COVID-19 coronavirus, there has been so much about what's happening to people on an emotional level and an anxiety level, and a lot of it has resulted in domestic violence. So Roman and Gaetan and I started looking at what happens to the dogs who or the pets that have been in that domestic violence. Where are they? What happens to them? And it just opened up an entire can of worms for us. And I mean, we could probably do 20 shows
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah,
what it is. Be,
unfortunately.
yeah, because it just really gets involved. And today, what we want to do is go over that if you are in a situation where you're in lockdown and you have a dog or a cat or a pet in your home, and you have a significant other that is having some kind of domestic violence, and it includes your animals, even if it doesn't include your animals, we want to talk about what really happens. How does that trigger them, and what happens to their emotional state? And even more, we want to go further into what happens to the dog if the dog is relinquished, or if the dog ends up in a shelter and you end up adopting or fostering a dog that may have been involved in a domestic violence relationship. You want to know how to be able to handle those. So we're going to ask the expert, which is Roman, on how to deal with this. So anyway, we're talking today about domestic violence that is involving dogs, mainly dogs. We realize that there are other pets involved, but in this case, it's dog. Why? Because it's the Dog Connection show. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that simple. Okay, now the first question is, what are the causes of domestic violence involving pets during COVID-19 lockdown? And Roman, I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Well, based on what I have seen through official channels, is that people are confined in a small environment. There is lack of control. There is lack of people being able to access social places to keep themselves safe or away from their abusers. Abusers are going through a stress, and they take it out to their partners even more than before. Um, and if the partners, have animals or pets, that could be also an additional outlet source. So there's definitely a functional behavior here for abusers to take advantage of, the situation there. The victims are not protected in any way. They have lack of access to going to public places, visit relatives, and expose the situation. So by the meantime, these people being public, all the bruises are gone. So it's an open field. Um, Now, one thing that I see also is pets being surrendered or try to be surrendered or a home in order to avoid that situation, because people see the vulnerability of those pets, or try to move to the other homes, to relatives, find excuses that, one of the relatives is sick and we need to go there. That would be a good opportunity to get out of the house. But also people find that a problem. They would not be able to take their pets with them because of restrictions, housing restrictions, or the existing relative has already a pet and that pet doesn't match in. And there's a lot of things going on there, and the numbers are big. Um, so we're looking at 82 million pets living in homes. That was 2014 numbers. And we see that um, all those pets are comfort for those victims, and they are tools for the aggressors. So the pets are exactly in between those two situations. But also we see that all aggression that is caused towards people started as a very young age towards animals. And so we see children who are exposed to those domestic violence cases that have pets and see domestic violence happening in front of them are more likely to use that example towards the animals to get rid of their stress and do what they see towards the animals and cause actually animal violence, violence towards animals because they see what they see. So there's a huge thing going on right now, and it will escalate to the point that I hope there will be more sharper laws coming in place after that.
Boy, I sure hope so too. And now you have written an article which is really great about domestic violence and the effects of on a dog's psyche. And we left a link in not in the description but in the comments so that you can really go through and I was going to say Gaetan, but Roman has really given a lot of information about what really happens to the dog. And if you might want to just briefly go over what this article is about.
Well, the article is about how dogs are affected by this domestic violence, even if they are not physically, violated, but also emotionally violated. But they can also see things happening because they learn from observation and then be affected by observation, which means dogs see domestic violence, and because they're empathetic, just like a 5-year-old would be, they experience that violence towards their fellow or lover, beloved partners as a violence towards themselves. Now we have two basic animals who are guarding breeds and animals who are not guarding breeds. And we see that dogs who are not guarding breeds are more affected by those violences because they feel the pain of the others and can do nothing about it. But the other dogs who are more guardian breeds, they can intervene in that situation, but they get in trouble because either they have to protect, the victim from the aggressor, and the aggressor diverts his aggression towards the animal and so on, or the dog ends up in a shelter because with somebody. Now the story goes that the dog showed aggression towards one of the family members, and the rest goes under the radar. And here's where my attention points out is that if we are in shelters as veterinarians or as intake in shelters, or we are dog trainers, or we are groomers, and we see any signs of violence towards an animal, we need to send those observations towards authorities so they can follow up with that. Okay, and this can be done anonymously. However, we need to keep records, take pictures, keep records, dates, time, who was there. And especially if we take in an animal as a shelter, we need to confirm the address. So I would suggest if you want to surrender an animal, you need a physically address printed on an official document that you can provide, right? So we can trace that person back. It's not just Frank and Susie dropping off the dog, and then we see the dog is being violated or abused, and we cannot trace it back to the source. Oh, it was my sister's dog, whatever.
And another good point, I'm itching to talk here. With oh God, senior moment, there I go. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh gosh, I waited too long. Sorry, folks. Well, anyway, good morning, Dale. Good morning, Ron. I can't believe that happened. What was I going to say? It'll come back to
something smart as usual.
Yeah. Oh well.
Appropriate.
Okay, what I wanted to do here is show us a video about. Now, this is not necessarily a dog and a woman who are having a domestic violence problem right now, but it does show what a dog goes through during a domestic violence incident. Now, this happens to be from Red Rover. If any of you are familiar with Red Rover, they have a fabulous program, and we're gonna show a little bit about them today and the things that they've done. They've partnered with Purina to provide some wonderful services. So let's just look at this video for now and see a little bit about this.
So I started dating this guy, and I noticed a few episodes that seemed pretty violent. After trying to end this relationship, I got off of work one night, and this guy was at my house waiting for me. And he trapped me in my room, and I was stuck. I mean, so with what happened, I had to call the police, and they were wonderful. But one officer in particular kept pushing me to call Weave, and couldn't understand at the time the severity of the situation. So I called Weave. They did their intake, they got all the information, and my biggest concern was I didn't have a place for my dogs to go. We've told me about Red Rover, which it seemed like unheard of at the time that there was people there to help with such a situation. They helped fund my dogs to be in boarding for 2 months so that I could go to the Weave Safe House and get the help that I needed, get the counseling that I needed and the support. My dogs are the reason why I'm, doing anything. They are my children. You can feel really discouraged when you don't feel like you have a lot of support. But there's wonderful people out there like Red Rover and the people that give to them, and Weave too. They're working around the clock all the time.
In many situations, domestic violence victims won't leave unless they can bring their pets with them. Red Rover provides many ways that they can help domestic violence victims do this. We can provide safe escape grants, and these let the domestic violence victims leave their abusive situations really quickly. They can literally run out the door, grab their animals with them, and then make that phone call. And then the domestic violence advocates that they're working with contact us, and we provide the grant directly to a boarding facility so that animal can be housed at that boarding facility while the victim is at the actual family violence shelter.
For the past 39 years, Weave has been providing housing, crisis intervention, longer-term therapeutic services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking here in the Sacramento region. We had one client in particular who was really reluctant to leave her abuser because of her pets, and she was able to get assistance through Red Rover. And we've had so many clients who that is their big barrier. Their big barrier is that they don't want to leave their pets behind, especially with somebody who's been abusive to them and has threatened their pets. So we're very grateful to Red Rover for helping that one client and hopefully many more in the future.
Red Rover is so excited to be able to work locally with organizations like Weave to make sure that the resources we provide for domestic violence victims are available locally.
This is a great example of Weave and Red Rover working together to help one particular victim move forward in her life. And there are thousands of those stories in this community, and I think we should all be really proud of that.
This year is Red Rover's 30th anniversary, and to celebrate, we're setting the goal of making sure every state in the country has domestic violence shelter that can accept pets.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. Now, Red Rover, if you guys are not familiar with them at all, we've got, here is their website, and they've got a lot of resources. We'll put a link to this in the comments as well. As a matter of fact, I'll do that right now. I'll take a copy and I will put that right in the comments so you'll have it. There you go. Okay, now also Red Rover has what they call a safe place for pets. So you can go in to this website and you can put in where your zip code is, or you can put in by your state, and it will find a place for you before you even contact them. They'll have it all. So this is wonderful too. I'm going to give you this copy of this here too. So you'll have that. Okay, there you go. And let's see. Then there is a webinar that you can also watch, and it will give you how, if you needed to get some safe housing grants, if that is what you're looking for. So that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. The other thing that they have is called the Purple Leash program. And this is a program that is connected with Red Rover and Purina. They partnered together. So let's take a look at this, and then we'll be done with this part here.
Stepping out of the shadows of abuse takes courage, and paving a new path for survivors takes passion. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime, and it affects more than just the victim. It affects the entire family, including pets. Almost half of these victims will delay leaving an abusive situation because they cannot bring their pets with them. Why? Only 10% of domestic violence shelters in the U.S. accept pets. But the bond we share with our pets is precious, and it's worth protecting. That's why Purina and Red Rover have proudly partnered to create the Purple Leash Project. The healing process takes the entire family, and the Purple Leash Project is working to create more safe, pet-friendly shelters so that survivors like Jill, Angie, and their pets can heal together, because pets are family too.
Did you hear Charlie?
Charlie was commenting on the.
Yeah.
Hey
it was
guys, you missed an
approving.
important piece of it.
It was an approval by Charlie. So that product has been endorsed by Charlie.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry about that. I should know better. Okay, now we'd like to, this is a part where, Roman, if you don't mind, what if I foster or adopt a dog that has experienced domestic violence? Roman has put together some slides to give you a little bit of an overview of what that would be, what we can do. So take it from here.
Well, first of all, we need to kind of point out that we usually know about women being violated. So we have domestic violence, and we always have in mind like a woman being violated. What we miss is that actually 13% of all domestic violence cases are also men involved as victims. That's a number.
Mm-hmm.
So while 36% are women, 14% are men. So it doesn't mean because you're a man, you're out of the hook. You can be both sides. I'm been in that situation before, of being in a domestic violence situation that was emotionally abusive, and my dogs were threatened. And I had basically one choice: give up my company, get the dogs in the car, and leave. So I was 3 months in the car living with my dogs, 3 mastiffs. So I've been on the receiving end on that side. But also as a professional, I have dealt with dogs being housed in my property under certain circumstances where one of the person who had that dog in my care was, her husband was an official. So she had no way to go officially. She had to kind of like get herself out and get the dog safe. So we see this is very, very complex situation. And without going into more details, we see that there's nobody safe from domestic violence in one way or the other, as a child, as a parent, as an elderly person. So if we see the abuse as a general picture, we have child abuse, we have animal abuse, we have elderly abuse, and we have domestic violence in general. So all these things are a package of violence. So what I suggest here to do is to be very vigilant and conscious about how animals are affected by it, because if we look again into numbers, we see that 6.6 million animals are in a domestic violence environment. 6.6 million animals are exposed to domestic violence in one way or the other, through child abuse, through direct animal abuse, through elderly abuse, or general domestic violence cases. So these dogs, at some point, if they're good, they make it through the process and stay with the original caretaker. However, most of those animals end up in shelters.
That's right.
And at some point, those dogs who are in the shelters are being adopted or being fostered.
And
Or
then they may be very anxious or upset or they've
Right.
got the behavioral problems, and right away they consider that the dog is no good and they want to bring the dog back. That's where you enter in, where you want
Right.
to say to them, here's the things you need to look for, and here's what you need to do with the dog that may demonstrate some kind of an abusive behavior.
Right. So from that experience, me myself as a victim and as a behaviorist, I put together a plan 10 years ago where I was trying to understand how can we help more animals in a short period of time to get that balance back, and for those animals to go back into a functional environment, because those animals, since they have emotions like a 5-year-old, they go through the same experiences. Now, this particular presentation that you see here doesn't go into what type of traumas a dog may have, but it shows you how to get out of there by creating a completely new environment. And so that environment that I suggest will be starting through a secure attachment relationship, where the dog goes through a new experience of companionship and belonging. Recognize that hands is not only here to hit and hurt, but also is through affection. So I get that. Sorry.
That's okay. You're remembering.
And affection and emotional support and validation, because many animals need to be appreciated, and they're not for their services, especially for dogs who are in the family and offer behavior support and emotional support. So, and one part also is create respect and communication, because those dogs are being silenced from the abuser, not to express themselves, not to bark, not to show aggression. They're being punished with e-collar, shock collars, punishment, prod rods, spray bottles, you name it. They're being used to keep the dog away and quiet from any interactions. The dog would respond if a violent action can happen. If a person raises his hand towards the other person goes into victim state of mind. The dog sees that aggressor, prey, predator realization, and the dog has to defend his partner in one way or the other. And so things will come up. So the dog is afraid to express himself and is afraid to communicate himself. He shuts down and eventually then explodes in a sudden reaction, sudden aggression. We said, out of nowhere, my dog attacked my child because my child gave me a hug.
Right.
Okay, we don't see that coming, and all of a sudden we have a behavior, and the dog is usually be put to sleep because of that aggression, because
That's
nobody
right.
will take that responsibility in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have other things that we want to look for. If you go a step further, the dog also has health and wellness issues, because what the violence included is also lack of care, medical care. The partner is not allowed to go to the veterinarian because the dog would be shown those abuse signals. The dog is being maltreated because there is no financial support towards the victim, because the abuser has control of the money, so the dog cannot go to healthcare. So you will see long nails, you will see burn marks, you will see penetrations, you will be, violations of body parts, and name it. And I include also sexual abuse of animals as well, part of that equation. So the veterinarian would see that and kind of sound alarm. But also, if you start handling a dog comes from that situation, and you want to groom him, or you want to pet him, clip his nails, that becomes a serious aggression issue. Of course, one important piece of that part is that those animals have to go through love and healing. And one thing that I
Absolutely.
specialized also, and my wife is a very special part of that, is to offer energetic support in this healing process, through energetic healing and trauma release, without re-traumatizing the animal or the person involved with that. But also nutritional aspects have to be considered, because dogs are being fed cheap food, dogs being fed as leftovers, or eventually being poisoned at some point to kill the dog out of the family. And so we want to make sure that if we get that kind of dogs that eventually comes in from a raid or a domestic violence, he has to totally be checked out, not just surface.
Right, right. And we end up having the dogs that when they do heal with somebody like Barbara, there's a calming effect that occurs as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's where your services come in. Thank you very much, Roman, for that. Okay, now here's a little special thing for those fur babies that crossed Rainbow Bridge this week. Uh, I'm very sorry to say that my dear friend Dale, his dog Maggie, passed away,
Oh,
and it was a difficult decision. She was in a lot of pain, and we really our hearts go out to you, Dale. We know that you're going through a lot right now, and uh, we wish Maggie have be able to be free and run through Rainbow Bridge and visit with your wife Joan and have a wonderful life. And then we have Luke Westerman and his dog Dino. He had to put Dino down as well, and Dino was his best friend. So we want to wish Dino a safe trip to Rainbow Bridge, and maybe Dino and Maggie can join forces and have a good time together in Rainbow Bridge.
well, it seems that dogs, are men's best friends, and they live 7 times faster than we do. It seems like we are 7 times more hurt when we leave, right?
Right, right. Yeah. Okay, so one more thing I want to tell you about is an update on Bo.
Oh,
Well, he has not been adopted.
what?
He has not gone to a foster home. So here's his picture. Look how much weight he's gained. Look at that face, everyone. We got to get, and look how happy he is now.
I just don't get it. Why is the bow not in a home? I mean,
I
give
don't
me a
know.
break.
Yeah, he needs to be in a foster home. So that's what we say too. So for those of you that want to know how to get a hold of him, message us and we will let you know. It's going to be through Uncaged Paws.
Is there a limitation where people can be if they are not in? I think
Yes,
it's
yes, they can't be taken across a state line. So it would have to be in the Las Cruces area or the outlying areas.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. And now we're introducing something new. We're calling it Ask Roman. And every week we're going to have a question that comes from one of our viewers and one of our fans, I should say. So here's a fan. Her name is Helen Boyle. And she says, "Hi, guys. I really need your help. I have two Bichon Frises, and we live in Northern Ireland. My backyard is fairly small, and two big dogs have come to stay with my neighbors during lockdown. My dogs are scared of them and bark and cry when out in the yard. I have put up barriers so they can see each other through the fence, but they are still worrying. The eldest is 9 and cries when the little one barks because she fears that they will be told off. Also, she doesn't have any interest in playing with toys. She loves walks and meeting with her local friends, which she got to do most days before lockdown. We are only allowed to take them for a walk once a day now, it looks like. She now cries a lot and appears depressed at times. She likes playing with treat puzzles, but I have to limit that as she has a sensitive stomach. What can I do to help? I'm really worried."
Well, Helen, you have our sympathy and empathy for the situations, and I have a lot of clients in UK and Ireland that I work with them remotely. So they're really struggling because these countries have been through extreme past, situations like that in the past. So they're very sensitive to that matter. So when we're looking at your case, you have two small dogs who are used to their environment. They consider their backyard as a safe environment, so that is the house. And suddenly they have new dogs next door, which likely, without accusing the dogs of any behavior, the other dogs maybe feel threatened because of this new additional stressor in the next door. The dog could just bark or just sniff at the door. The dogs are not used to that. So what we're looking for is a fear response. So we have two dogs here. The one dog is more sensitive than the other, and the other one is triggered by the other dog as well. So it's kind of like a vicious circle. So I think the only way out is there are two routes. The one route is to get in contact with the neighbor and have them, do a plan, like an outing plan. Let's say from that time to that time, switch dogs so the dogs don't feel threatened with each other. That's one route. The other route is a double route, which is desensitizing and counter conditioning. Desensitizing means the dog should get used to that environmental trigger, and counter conditioning is to make the dog associate the other side with something better. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to help the dog feel safe, and that starts inside the house. We want the dog to have the experience that any time the dog feels threatened, he can come back in the house. Now, what we look here is that one dog wants to take care of business. He goes outside and gets nervous about that, and the other dog doesn't want to go out at all, if I remember right. One thing that I suggest here is to start inside with counter conditioning. Start inside and start creating an association with an attention command or marker, in that case the word good, and rewarding with a treat. So good equals treat. And then we want to generalize that idea, good equals treat, with dog equals good equals treat. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the next thing we want to do is start low distraction in the very beginning. So when the dog is not outside next door, then we start the training. So we start inside and bring it outside with no distractions, and then we add distractions to the equation. So what I would suggest, it's a quick response, and maybe you want to give us a feedback, you can connect me through my website, is to start using treats at the very beginning. And I know your dog's getting like stronger about that. But we want to associate treats with good. So treat equals good equals reward in that case. And rewards, we have multiple rewards. We have affection as a reward. We have a toy as a reward. We have interactions as a reward. We have emotional feedback. We have emotional expression. We have facial expression. All these are rewards. So it depends on the dog what he likes. We don't only need to stick to the treats, but we can associate those things. So if you give your dog a reward, good job, I love you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Such a good boy.
Treat equals food equals petting equals emotional experience equals your face expression. Then then we bring it outside. So every time the dog looks at us, oh, he gets a treat because he's so awesome. Every time the dog looks next door, he's awesome too, perfect. So the dog is like, wait a minute, if I look over there, I get a treat? Yeah, you get a treat if you look over there. If you bark, though, I will get your attention, because barking is not what I like.
Yeah.
I appreciate you checking in with me and checking next door. So you can flirt with next door. You can get upset, right? You can get huckles up. You can shake if you want, but no barking and no interaction more than that. Because between flirting with the trigger and attacking the trigger, there are differences, right? Between flirting the trigger and running away from the trigger is also a difference. So we don't want the dog to go into a fear response, like into fight or flight response. We want the dog to flirt with the problem and flirt with us. We want him to show how he feels about it. It's totally normal. So saying no and leave it is not a good option for a dog who struggles with something, because we want to make that problem go away, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, I want the dog to trust me, make the problem go away. But if the dog doesn't pay attention to that, the problem is gone. So if you look at me, that problem doesn't exist because it doesn't happen. You don't know if it's happening unless you turn. So you don't turn, it doesn't exist. And all of a sudden, the dog will recognize that paying attention to you, the problem goes away. And the other side, the other dog would see that what he does doesn't have an effect, and he's going to give up. So scientifically speaking, if a dog tries 42 times something that doesn't work, he's done with it, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
So that's the game to play. Now, because your dogs are not very toy-oriented, we have different ways of creating enrichment in the house, which could be searching more, digging more. You can have a small digging pool for the dogs to play with. Toss a couple of treats in there, let the dog dig it out and find it. And, Friesian are awesome, great dogs. And I would say the more enrichment options you have, the better it gets. I think I have a website, I have a blog post about enrichments for animals. I'm going to share it with that later in the link, so be patient. I'll find that and I post it. So these are the route to go. First of all, associating the experience outside with something that's positive, and so not threatening at the same time. stay with your dogs, eventually have them on the leash, and work with one dog at a time first, and then add the second dog to the equation. Start with a dog who is more controlling outside, and then bring the other dog who is a little bit more scared, seeing the other dog being calmer. Now, of course, there's a broad different versions of ways to approach it, but that's what I picked up right now. And definitely, if we had conversation, I would be helpful in more details, because I would get a better understanding of what the whole concept is, like which size the dog is in, and how the dog responds, the first reaction that it is, and how the dog has been corrected or punished for going into the tantrum or a fear state. There are all these factors that play an important role.
Well, that was an excellent, excellent answer. Hey, Helen, I'm going to send you a link to the show in case you're not watching it now, so that you can see what Roman had to say. And also in the description, there's a link for Roman does online dog training in a holistic fashion, more of a really hands-on, but it allows you, it's very, very detailed, but it also is very, very, very successful. So we're proud to have Roman with us. And Gaetan, I'm sorry, you didn't get a chance to say too much. Go ahead, say something.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to salute the work you just did. It's a very positive approach on the very difficult topic. Family violence is a big issue worldwide, and the way you approach it is on a very, very positive note. And you integrate with that problem the issue with pet, and found solution and possibility of safeguarding the victim and his or her pet. And for that, I'm very thankful for you for what you're doing. I talk on behalf of other listeners who are in a similar situation or witness in a situation like that. So I thank you for what you did. Everything is extremely positive, extremely useful to receive. And that's why I want to thank you for that, guys. You did most of the work on that topic this week. On my side, I'm working on, I cannot stand.
On our number of things.
We're working on making this even better and better. Right now, I cannot stand to be in a house and not able to go out and film.
Speaking, yeah, look at. I don't know how you ladies are doing with your haircuts, but I'm cutting my own hair, and it's not working.
Oh, you don't
out
have
real
scissor
great.
in your. You don't have scissor in your kitchen.
Yeah, I said
scissor like that.
I'm doing my
Take some
own.
hair and
I
cut.
would like to remind everyone, do you remember separation anxiety? do you remind barking, the dogs barking at the window and then passing people?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Feel it.
Yeah.
We're getting
Exactly.
My
there.
neighbor is walking. Hey, a neighbor.
Yeah.
Hey, neighbor. Where I am, it's a complex. There's I don't know how many apartments we have here, but almost everybody has a dog. So my front yard is the poop deposit. So I have maybe 40 dogs per day pass by and drop some bank interest
You know what you need to get? You need to get a little Yorkie that's a real yapper, so that all day long you can hear that.
They will go after them. The other part, I'm planning to buy a drone so I can send my drone filming these guys without physical interaction.
Yeah.
So this is something I'm planning to do. And the other part is we try to develop our marketing strategy, our promotion. So it's a little bit why I'm on the back burner at this moment. We are working, Kathy and us, all of us, we're working on that. And we'll come up with something, I think, within 2 weeks from today. We will have some strategy and announcement for you guys.
Okay.
Meanwhile, if you like the show, you can whisper that to your friend.
Yeah.
I would say don't share it. Don't let anybody know what you know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I got some good news.
Yes.
Because I've been ill. Yeah, we're going to have Mayor Max. He's going to have a special show next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday.
Today, yes.
And they, of course, are still on lockdown where they're at. So we were going to do a couple of things. So Phyllis, Max's mom, was going to be doing some things outside, but we decided we're not going to be able to do that. But we do want to have Max on the show so that you can meet him. He's been a wonderful mayor during this lockdown. Wait until you hear some of the great things he's done for his town. It's really cute. And I'm not really sure what our show is next week. Gaetan knows better than I do, but we'll keep that a secret until another time.
It's coming.
So, yeah. So anything else you guys want to say? I think this is the end of our show.
God love you.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
just took it out
everyone.
of my mouth. Love you guys too.
Okay. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.